When I look back now, it's hard to believe how much my life changed within just a few months. My name is Margaret Johnson, and I live in Portland, Oregon. For nearly 30 years, I was married to my husband Daniel. He was the steady rock of our family, a man who loved nothing more than to sit out on the porch with a cup of coffee, watch the rain fall, and talk about the future. We raised 2 children together, Michael and Anna. By the time my story begins, both were grown. Michael had just turned 26 and was working in Seattle as a software engineer. Anna was married and living with her husband in San Diego. Life had its challenges, but we were proud of them. Then, everything shattered. Daniel had always been strong, the kind of man who rarely got sick, so when he was diagnosed with advanced cancer, it felt like the world flipped upside down. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. I watched the man I loved fade away before my eyes. Despite all the treatments, the hospital visits, the prayers, nothing could stop the inevitable. When he passed, the house felt unbearably empty. After 30 years of marriage, silence became my greatest enemy. I would hear a creak in the hallway and expect him to come around the corner. I would wake up in the middle of the night and reach out to his side of the bed, only to find cold sheets. Grief comes in waves, they say, and they're right. Some mornings I managed to make coffee and look through old photo albums with a bittersweet smile. Other days, I couldn't even get out of bed. Michael, my son, noticed the change in me right away. He had been calling often during my husband's illness, but after the funeral, his calls became daily check-ins. He worried that I was isolating myself too much. One evening, he said, "Mom, I think I'm going to come stay with you for a while. Work can be done remotely, and I don't want you to go through this alone." I tried to argue. I didn't want to burden him, but within a week, he was at my door with his suitcase, his laptop bag, and a look of determination that reminded me so much of his father. Having him home changed everything. The house no longer echoed with emptiness. I would hear him typing away in the dining room, making coffee in the kitchen, or humming a tune under his breath. His presence filled the quiet. The first week was awkward. I had been used to structuring my life around my husband's illness, and suddenly, I didn't know what to do with myself. Michael noticed and gently began including me in his routines. He'd say, "Hey Mom, I'm going for a walk around the neighborhood. Wanna come? Or I'm cooking pasta tonight. Let's try Dad's old recipe together." One evening, he pulled out Daniel's toolbox from the garage. "Remember how Dad always said we should fix this porch railing before it gave out?" he asked. Together, we spent the afternoon repairing it. I laughed when I realized I was holding the hammer all wrong, and Michael teased me gently the way his father used to. By the time we finished, I felt not just a sense of accomplishment, but also a strange peace. Through little projects like that, I began to feel alive again. We repainted the kitchen. We planted flowers in the backyard. We even started a small herb garden, something Daniel had always talked about but never got the chance to do. But more than the chores, it was the conversations that healed me. At night, we would sit in the living room with cups of tea, talking about Daniel, remembering his laugh, his quirks, the times we went camping together. Sometimes we cried, sometimes we laughed until our stomachs hurt. Sharing those memories with my son reminded me that grief wasn't just mine to carry. It was ours as a family, and carrying it together made it lighter. One rainy afternoon, I broke down. The storm outside matched the storm inside me, and I told Michael how afraid I was of the future, of being alone, of forgetting who I was without Daniel. Michael reached over, took my hand, and said, "Mom, you're not alone. Dad wouldn't want you to fade away. He'd want you to live, to keep loving, to keep laughing. And I'll be here for you, as long as you need." Those words gave me strength I didn't know I had. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. I joined a local support group for widows, where I met other women going through the same journey. Michael encouraged me to start painting again, a hobby I had abandoned years ago. He even set up a small studio for me in the spare room. Over time, the house became filled with new memories alongside the old ones. It was no longer just a place of loss, but a place of growth. Eventually, Michael returned to his job in Seattle, but the bond we built during those months has stayed strong. We call each other almost every day. He visits often, and when he does, we still cook together, fix things around the house, and talk late into the night about Dad. Losing my husband will always be the greatest heartbreak of my life, but with my son's love and support, I've learned that healing is possible. Grief never truly leaves you, but it can be softened by family, by memories, and by hope. If you're watching this and going through something similar, I want you to remember this. You don't have to carry the weight alone. Let the people who love you in. Healing is never quick, and it's never easy, but with patience and connection, life can become beautiful again, even after loss. And that is the story of how my son helped me through my husband's death and how together we found a path forward toward peace.